Hello, welcome to another INFJ ramble. I just wanted to, touch on the topic control versus understanding. And I feel like anytime we try to control external circumstances, that creates a lot of like dis-ease and dysfunction versus trying to understand. Does that make sense? I got this insight when I was on the road with my other half. It was our day off. We were just kind of trying to enjoy the day, and we were driving for a pretty long distance. And I think you can or cannot relate because I feel like people have different levels or degrees of road rage. I'm not saying that my partner was experiencing road rage, but there was mild irritation based on the person in front of us's ability to navigate the road, if that makes sense. And he was getting a little agitated because the person wasn't driving at a certain speed or was constantly stepping on their brakes and unsure of how to navigate the roadway, and completely understandable. But I feel I was telling him, why are you getting mad? Like, I understand that you're getting mad, but is that going to like change the situation? Are you going to be able to like control the person's, rate of speed or how he navigates the roadways? I said, it's not. It's basically wasted mental energy. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, we waste so much mental energy trying to control versus trying to control and make things meet our expectations versus trying to understand. Now, if you were to use your mental energy to understand instead, I think that would be a more productive way of utilizing that energy or that resource within you. And I told them, I feel like the person maybe is unfamiliar with the terrain, unfamiliar with the layout of the road, and because this person's probably a tourist, they probably are, unsure of the spatial range of the car and, how it can fit into particular spaces. Hence, the reason why he's probably driving really slow, brake stepping, and, just not in alignment with his expectation. And I think that that can be applicable to pretty much anything and everything. I think a lot of conflict arises, or the mind creates a lot of conflict when it like lacks understanding. And I think for us, we're constantly seeking to understand things. And so that's why it may seem like we bring up like issues, or we it seems like we are focusing on problems, but in actuality we're not trying to like, how do I say, complain about them versus understand. So there's a difference. There's people who just complain about their situation and circumstances because it's beyond their control, and there's other people who want to control the situation, complain because they can't. And then I think we bring things up because predominantly we want to understand. And because of our lack of understanding, we have a tendency to seem like we complain when in actuality we are seeking to understand. I also notice in conversations, like, everyone wants to be understood versus understanding. And that creates a lot of conflict in itself as well. I think INFJs are adept at seeking to understand. I think maybe that's why we are known as counselors, because we are seeking to understand someone else's point of view. But I think in most cases, like, conversations are one-sided. I mean, there's a few people who are actually interested in my point of view, but overall, I think people are just interested in being understood versus understanding. And for us, I think that's where we struggle. It's like, because we do have our own viewpoint and we do want to outlet that and we do want to be understood, but I think a lot of people lack the capacity to understand because they're just so interested in like outletting their point of view and having you conform to that. I mean, to some degree, I think INFJs can be the same way, but for the most part, we're very open to understanding someone else's point of view. And if we see some type of like, how do I say? We see, I don't want to say a flaw in the other person's point of view, but I can't think of another word to describe it right now. If we see a flaw in another person's point of view, we have a tendency to question it because we want them to, help us understand, like, why. You know what I mean? But then a lot of people take that as a personal attack, and then they're just like, they'll even more so try to drive their point home when in actuality, we're just trying to understand. Because sometimes, like, people have limited perspectives based on their level of experience and maturity, and I can see those things. And so in order to like help them understand, or even give them the opportunity to like prove my insight wrong, I want to explore the topic even deeper, but then people take it as a personal attack when actuality, I'm not trying to attack you, I'm trying to understand you, or even like help you understand like why I may, I don't know, because I'm lacking information. I need more information in order to like agree with your conclusion. You know what I mean? But anyhow, where was I going with this? Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like once you, or if you try to utilize your mental energy to understand versus being understood, then there can be so much more, how do I say, I'm drawing a blank left and right. I'm so sorry. Blah, blah, blah. If you seek to understand versus trying to control or to be understood, which I feel like is a type of control, like you want to be understood because you're trying to control the situation or the conversation. I think things become more harmonious, and I've gotten into the habit of telling people that I agree and disagree with them. And I feel like that has a neutralizing effect because instead of disagreeing with them outright, I'll tell them that I agree and disagree with them. And most people will be like, what do you mean by that? Like, how can you agree and disagree? And I'll say, well, I agree with you because, your perception is completely valid, from your point of view. However, I feel this or I think this. And then, I can give them the opportunity to try to understand both points of views so that we can, agree to disagree. But if they are still adamant about making their point, then at a certain point, I just kind of like stop talking because I realize this person is not open enough to accept someone else's point of view. You know what I mean? I don't know what I'm saying. I never know what I'm saying. Anyhow, yeah. If you learned something cool, if you didn't learn anything cool, blessings to one and all. Amen.